Hey guys, how's it going? So, we're in the Corona era of things. Super strange. But, with that said, this is also has been one of the best years to be a knife collector or enthusiast. Specifically, for the types of steels that have been coming out. Hats off to Spyderco for, providing us with that. However, I think the not so much hype, but I think that people are starting to get interested more, which is a good thing. Which means hopefully they'll get interested in other things like sharpening or care for their knife, which is going to be cool. So, with that said, have kind of a treat, I guess, considering we have a new kid on the block, if you will. PM2 and CPM-10V. I'm sure you've seen a bunch of videos on, CPM-10V is from Crucible, blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. So, it's a 10V class steel, obviously. It's more closely related to A11, which is a well-known tool steel. It's been around for ages. And other equivalents are K390, which I found out actually the reason why they made K390, if I'm not mistaken, is because this had a patent on it for a very, very long time. And K390 came out, and I believe there's another one called K294, which is almost exactly the same as this. Almost exactly the same. Probably variations in percentage. I don't know if a patent ran out. I don't know what. Anyway, a lot of companies make A11, and a lot of companies make equivalents or close enough to CPM-10V. This has 2.45% carbon, 5.25 chromium, no cobalt, moly is in there, no wolfram, and we have 9.75 vanadium, which is obviously, as we all know, super high in wear resistance. K390, on the other hand, has a little bit more carbon, less chromium, cobalt is in there, so now we can get, differing in hardness, a little higher in hardness. And I'm saying a little, not super high like Rex 45. And then we have our moly, which also aids in that. And we have a little bit of wolfram, 1%, which isn't really going to do a ton. And then we have vanadium at 9%. So, why am I mentioning K390, you ask? Because what I'm going to do is, I have in my possession 2 Police 4s. My personal one, and another one that I picked up. These are both in K390, and these are both very, very well heat-treated K390, unlike the Para 3 and the PM2 in K390 from Bento Box, which was soft as shit in my opinion. I'm sorry, I can't fucking hold my tongue. That knife got fucking done wrong. It got done dirty. It got done dirty, son! So, I'm going to run this against these 2 Police 4s because we have 2 of them and they're probably either similar or slightly different in hardness. I know for a fact that they're probably either equal to or harder than this in this CPM-10V. So this is going to be nice because then we can see do these things have an effect? Does the vanadium in this really crush out that K390? Is it going to do that? Also, to point out that all of these percentages are all what are on the data sheets, not what are actually in the steel, because that is always going to vary with each melt you get in steel. So, another thing is that cobalt, wolfram, and moly will always aid with secondary hardening in tool steels and high-speed steels. Reading a book called Tool Steels, it has a plethora of information, talks about hardening, composition, all that stuff. but it gets into tempering. And the reason why we can get these steels so hard is that we can do a secondary tempering during our tempering process. Depending on our austenizing temperature, and if we take our steel up to under that austenizing temperature, it's going to make the steel harder because we're going to get carbides precipitating in that martensite matrix. And we're going to raise that hardness of the steel. It's going to raise it not significantly, but to the point where it's harder than as quenched. So if we quench our steel at 65 HRC, as quenched is 65 HRC, we do our cryo really quick, get rid of that retained austenite, try to get as much martensite in there as we can, bring that up to 1,000 degrees, in between, I think the book said 925 to 1,000 degrees, 1,100 for certain, other steels, and we can bring that hardness up. And we're going to do that with each temper. It's going to bring it up a little bit in each temper. So that's the interesting thing about these types of steels, is that we can get an as quenched hardness, but then we can bring it up depending on the composition, depending on what your austenizing temperature is, depending on many factors. And we have trade-offs with, that higher austenization versus lower austenization, stuff like that. I'm not going to get into that. Anyway, point being, we have two really, really good steels and hopefully similar hardnesses. And they're going to be so close that I think one will edge out the other, and so on and so forth. So with that said, take my juice box and we're going to run this test. Hopefully I don't run out of rope. That is also a factor. So I'm going to run the CPM-10V first and then get into the K390, because if I run out of rope, then at least we have one of the K390s. So let's get into the test. We'll cut. You can fast forward that shit if you want to, and then we will talk about it at the very end. Cool. Thanks. Gotta stay hydrated during this COVID-19 nonsense. So, how'd you like all that? That was pretty interesting. Had a little snafu with the tape on the 10V, but we got it fixed and I was able to continue. I just followed the same line that I had before on there, so everything was, you know, even. Not scientifically, but, you know, as it were. Excuse me. So, what happened with the test? Here are the results. We'll get into those really quick. So, we have a three-way. CPM-10V. And we have the K390 Police 4 and the other K390 Police 4. All three were sharpened DMT coarse, DMT fine, 10 passes per side on 1 micron diamond strop spray. The good stuff. So, the Spyderco PM2, the behind the edge thickness standard for all of these. All of these had the same behind the edge thickness, which was 25 thousandths, and all the edge angles were exactly the same, 30 to 35 inclusive. So, the CPM-10V did 19 turns times 10 times 2, our multiplier, and we got 380 cuts. Very, very good. We're on par with, we're over a lot of the other stuff that we've been doing. There's a couple of outliers here, but I mean, it's beaten out a lot of things. It actually beat out Maximate, and it beat out pretty much everything else. So, yeah, beat out M4, beat out everything. So far, that's beaten out everything. The HRC, it's online. I'm sure a couple of people are going to test it again. 64.6, 64.5 HRC for that. I'm sure it's going to be in that range with all the other ones. What else? Oh yeah, other results, duh. Okay. So that PM2 has beaten out everything that I've tested so far, except for that weird one-off Rex 45 that had a very, very thin edge, which was expected. 380 cuts. And that's just till I stopped cleanly slicing paper. Like, I want a clean cut through paper. It stopped doing that. It hung up a little bit, but that's when I stopped. So, the second Spyderco, or the first Spyderco rather, micarta Spyderco, that did 12 times 10 times 2, 240 cuts. Don't know what happened with that. But we are on par with a lot of the M4 that I've tested thus far. The difference between that and the other PM, or the PM2, there was a 58% increase on the PM2 over the Police 4 and micarta K390. That's a 45% difference. So that cut 58% more than this K390. Okay, that's fine. Let's get to the other Spyderco K390. Now remember, the Seiki City, Japan, they are really fucking good at their heat treats. From what I've experienced, from what other people experience, very, very good. So again, that first K390 is perfectly fine with me. The second K390, same behind the edge thickness, same edge angle. We got 24 turns times 10 times 2, which is 480 cuts. So, between these two, right here, this one had a 100% increase in performance. With the same edge angle, same edge geometry as that knife. That is a 66% difference at a 100% increase. So that tells me this is obviously harder. No brainer there. So between the PM2 and that last K390, this had a 26% increase or 23% difference. So again, this tells me that this is obviously harder than that PM2. This is also heat treated very well. If these were the same HRC, I would expect this CPM-10V to beat out or edge out that. That difference is very, very close, ladies and gentlemen. 26% difference between the two. 480 cuts on this bad boy and 380 cuts on this bad boy. Both of them beating out the PM2 and Maximate that I did. And assuming that that one ran softer, which it probably was, yeah, that's pretty amazing. And also it goes to show that we can run this K390 a little bit harder. Come on, let's do that. So I'm excited for the Endura Spyderco to come out, made in the same place. It's probably going to be ran a little bit harder. I highly recommend picking it up if you can. So with that said, CPM-10V, great steel. It's going to cut a lot of cardboard for you guys. K390, another awesome steel. My favorite steel. Again, going to cut a lot of cardboard for you guys. So don't be bashful. But yeah, this test, obviously it's one test in a million. One data point for a million data points or infinity data points. But what we have right here, 3 great knives. This one's harder than this, or I'm sorry. This one's harder than this. But we're splitting hairs here, and these are all very good steels, and you will be happy with all of them. They're badass. So I guess that's all we have. Did a little steel talk in there. We can get harder steels if we temper at a higher oxidizing temperature and get our tempering temperatures up there. This is all according to the book that I'm reading. I'm sure I'm wrong about everything, because I always am. So, yeah. And we also know that these two steels are similar in composition, but we have a little bit more alloying additions or other alloying additions in this K390 to give a little bit of edge. I would be very, very interested in the same HRC and seeing toughness, because that is a very interesting thing, is that the Bowler data sheet, obviously they're there to sell steel, but the Bowler data sheet actually claims that this is less wear resistant than CPM-10V at the same hardness, but is more toughness than the CPM-10V, which I would agree. I mean, if they're the same hardness, that 10V would obviously definitely edge out the K390, but we're talking not a huge edge out. Like, it's very, very close. And I would be interested in seeing the toughness of that K390 compared to the CPM-10V. That would be a really cool test. Hopefully we'll see that in the future, but yeah. So that's all I have. Hit me up if you want to talk about shit, if you want to see more shit. Still have that LC200N thing going on. I've put a few edges on it, and I'm very interested in how it does. I am probably going to end up regrinding it, but we'll get into that in the second video. So thanks for watching, guys. Have a good night. Practice your social distancing, and don't cough on each other. See you later.